Hi, I'm Matt with Main Street Medina, and welcome to another edition of Medina Minute. Today we're here at the historic Farmers Exchange in Southtown, and we're going to meet some faces and some friends from around town. Come on in and join me. Good morning. We're here with Julianne Bedel from Medina County District Library. Julianne, you're the director.
I am.
Is it fair enough to say new director still? Like, I feel we lost a whole year, so I don't really have a recollection.
I know. It feels new.
Okay.
It feels new.
Okay.
I stepped into the role when Carol Cowell retired.
Yeah.
And then less than about a month later, COVID.
Yeah.
So it still feels very new to me.
Okay. Now, are you back in the library?
Yes.
Or you're in the library now?
Absolutely. We
All right,
reopened
cool.
last June. So.
Yeah. Nice. How did you end up in Medina?
Well, I was an Akronite, born and raised, and went
Okay.
to the university, and for the longest time, those were my roots, and I never really thought about going elsewhere.
Yeah.
My family was there. But when my daughter was younger, we started with horses and kept them in Lodi, and we found 3, 4, 5 days a week, some days driving to Lodi from Akron. So
Oh, okay.
it gave us a little taste of the community,
Yeah.
started to develop some friendships. And so about 6 years ago, we thought about, maybe making a move, and it took us a while to work up to it, but we're
Sure.
in Spencer Township.
Okay.
So it kind of evolved over time for a change of lifestyle.
Yeah. So it worked out great. Like, I didn't know if you were in the area or if you moved here from across the country for the position.
No, just from
Nice.
Akron.
Okay.
And at the time, I was the director of Barberton Library, and I mean, I'd known Carol and was familiar with many libraries in the area, and Medina always was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, when we were deciding where to live, we kind of secret shopped some of the local libraries to see, where. I know.
How do you do that?
It's kind of sad. Well, you just walk in and you don't say, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving here. What do you think?" So,
Yeah.
But it just felt, Lodi was one of the libraries that we visited, and I thought Spencer to Akron or Akron to Spencer is a kind of a big change. We thought this is either going to be fantastic or we're going to be reselling real quick.
Right,
and
right.
it just felt fantastic from the minute we moved there.
Cool.
So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Were you into books as a kid? Like, was your nose always in a book?
Yes.
Yeah?
I hate to be the stereotype, but absolutely. Our family was a library family, and my
Okay.
mom, she did work outside of the home, but we did summer reading club and all those kinds
Cool.
of things with our local library in Goodyear Heights. And when I was about 14, my mom decided to re-enter the workforce, and she talked to our branch manager about, did they need any clerical?
Mm-hmm.
And the branch manager says, "No, we don't, but what about her?" I know. So my mama got me my first job
Oh
when
my
I was
gosh.
15, and I thought,
Yeah.
well, this is good. I can work here for the summer, earn enough money to buy my class ring, and then
Okay.
I'll be done. And 30-something years later,
Yeah.
I'm still here. It just was a good fit.
Oh, that's cool. So really, it was your mom that kind of got you into the whole field.
It was. We knew our children's librarian and our teen librarian in the branch, and it was kind of our third place.
Yeah.
I don't think back in the 80s people were talking about the third place, but that's what it felt like.
Right.
So, it was just a really nice transition to be able to keep my focus on high school and still do band and choir and all those kinds of things, but
Yeah.
be able to work too. And it was always, for the longest time, the job I was having while I was going to decide what I was really going to do.
Sure.
And like a few years later and a few college degrees later, I thought, oh my word, I'm a librarian. It snuck up on me.
You worked into it.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you say you knew the children's librarian and the other, and I wonder if kids have that experience today.
I think they really do for
Okay.
our regular families. We have kids that'll come in with their moms and their grandparents or their caregivers. Like, that's their family tradition. They just do that. We also have some kiddos that come in after school because that's where they want to hang out. They don't have
Right.
anywhere else to go.
Right.
Or they just choose to be there. So I think that still is the case for lots of our families. Now, not all of them. Busy life. Maybe they're just picking up something in a pickup locker and then going to a soccer match after that. So not for every family, but I think that still is for a lot.
How have you seen the library world, or kind of the focus of libraries, change?
Well, that's an interesting question because for me, our focus never changed, but the way we deliver services evolves. I hate to date myself, but when I first started in libraries, there were no computers. We didn't have a computer.
Sure.
I do recall like the flap of the staff when we got a fax machine. And some of the librarians are like, oh no, people are going to fax us questions and what are we going to do? Oh, the answer was where you're going to answer them.
Right, right.
So for me, the focus on lifelong learning, building readers, supporting entrepreneurs, that hasn't changed since the 80s. But the way we do it, of course, has gone from 0 to 60, and I don't know where it's going to go next. But, I think that's forced our libraries and our people working in the fields to grow with the times. Some days we grew slowly. I would say maybe in the 90s we grew a little bit more slowly. But when the technology was smaller and more affordable, that accelerated us adapting to it at the library because that's what the community wanted. And then COVID just sort of like Shazam, we're going to do everything different.
Yeah. I kind of miss, I'm not even sure what adjective to put on it, maybe the experience of the card catalog. It felt like you were actually doing the research or going on the hunt to find the book and then the Dewey Decimal System figuring out where it was. Now you're right, it's just click, 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 done.
Right.
It's so easy.
And I think that
it kind of took some of the learning out of it.
A little bit.
Or the process.
The computer does the things that sometimes we used to have to think, okay, well, what would the subcategories be for that?
Sure.
And let me go check out those 9 things. It feels like a Google search. The computer or our ILS is a little designed a little differently. It searches more efficiently than like a Google search. But it's different.
How have you adapted to how people use libraries? You mentioned earlier kiddos that come in after school. And I've read on NPR, Reddit articles, libraries are centers of learning, but they're also becoming almost childcare centers or social service centers. How have you seen that change?
Well, we just have to be very present in looking to see, which family are we serving here? Are we serving a child who he or she's going to be here for 2 hours no matter what happens? So in that case, we might say, hey, let's, we do the after school programs that are like fun and blowing off steam, and you can be loud and you can be joyful, right? Because who wants to be trapped at the library for a couple hours, right? Or we might see, do we have a student here who has this need for an information need, and he or she's going to be here for an hour, and we better, help them double down on that education. So I think a lot of it, there's always been a reference interview. There's always been like the first 30 seconds we engage with a customer or a patron. We have to, ask the right questions, be open to hearing what it is they need. So I think the importance of the reference interview has been around since Dewey, right? But I think the importance of it, understanding why they're here. When we talk about adults, some of them just want to learn, right? Some of them want to come in and maybe have a half-hour tutorial on how to use their gadget or how to use, Libby to downloads. Some folks really want to learn that, and we need to adjust our staffing and our mindset to be able to teach. Other folks just want the right book, so they just want to come up and ask us, right? No problem, I have that for you right here, and you're done in 12 seconds.
So
I think really, having that conversation and figuring out which patron are we speaking with is key. I grew up in libraries, grade school and then afterward volunteering. Our library to me is such a beautiful gem, besides for what it has inside. Is there a favorite part or an element of the library that you just walk in and you're like, I love this place? Well, I think rather than one kind of particular feature, what I love about the Medina County District Libraries is they each feel like they have a personality. When you go to Lodi, you think, well, that kind of looks like a barn. Well, that wasn't an accident, right? So it fits in. It's got a hitching post. It's got the clear story windows. It's really neat. You walk into Highland Library, and it's very much, art is first and center. And there's a lot of kind of references to the Hornets, within the architecture. So I think to me, just the fact that they're not all 6 the same. Like when I go to Target, I know I'm in Target and I can find the shoe servant, right? I can find the shoe department no matter where I am. When you're in our libraries, you kind of feel that. So.
And that's by design because you want to honor the community and be true to what that's all about.
Absolutely. Show those roots, show that personality.
What's your favorite kind of book to read? What's your literature choice?
Well, I really like to read pretty widely. I mean, not because it's my job, but it's also my preference. But I really like to read biographies, to hear people's stories. I really love historical romance. You know, those trashy bodice rippers that people used to hide. Yeah, I read those proudly.
Do you have those at the library?
Of course we do.
Oh my gosh.
Of course we do.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
So book signing with Fabio coming up?
Well, I don't really care about the cover models, but
That's hysterical. What's one of your favorite biographies? Like whose story really surprised you?
I would say that a lot of folks read Michelle Obama's one, and I love how it's focusing on relationships. So that was a favorite. I would say, the name of the individual is escaping me right now, but years ago I read a biography called When Rabbit Howls.
Oh, wow.
And it's probably from the late 90s, but it's about an individual that was diagnosed with multiple personality disorders, and a truly gut-wrenching story of everything from all kinds of abuse as a child, and how she kind of came out the other side, maybe 20, 30 years later, when, back in the day when mental health wasn't health. Mm-hmm. So I think When Rabbit Howls is one that I still, this many years later, it still kind of has an impression with me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. With your love of history and biographies, do you and your family like to travel to historic places like Mount Vernon or Biltmore and go from a different experience?
We kind of do a little bit of everything. There are some days we just like to go and be a lump on the beach, go down to Sanibel and stay there. But my husband's very much reading into World War II nonfiction. So, if we're going to Gulf Shores, we're going to go see the Alabama.
Yeah,
so
nice.
we're able to blend it, and Gettysburg and all those kinds of things. So
in the whole shutdown, we just watched a TV show on Netflix, and I can't remember the darn name, but it was a woman. Like, she was married to an historian, and he was studying World War II, and then she touched a stone and went back like 500 years to Scotland.
Outlander.
Yes, that one.
Also a favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's wonderful to read about history. Like I say, my husband focuses on the technology and the political things that were going on. I like to hear what was an individual, just Joe Schmo down the road? What was he doing during that time period? But it's another thing when you stand where it happened.
True.
So whether it's Colonial Williamsburg or whatever time period.
I'm curious, is your personality one that when you go to an historic site, does your soul or your spirit, do you connect with that? Like, some people can go there and stand there and they will start to cry because they can literally feel or experience what happened. I can go and look at it and okay, I know what happened here, that's a pretty building. Mm-hmm. It's not that I don't appreciate it, but does it kind of absorb into you?
I think it can, depending on maybe how in-depth the reading was. A few years ago with my mom, we went to Europe and we were in Glastonbury Abbey. And our tour guide was kind of, the typical and over here in this corner we had, this and that and the other thing.
The worst.
But when they released the folks to go shop for 2 hours, we just wanted to stand there and just be there in the quiet. And that's been, good gravy, that's been many years. But when you still think, I can hear what that day sounded like at Glastonbury Abbey.
Sure.
And I think so, depending on the subject, there's something about being in the space, whether it's a spiritual connection, definitely emotional for me, but I think standing in the space can have lots of impact.
Yeah. I had that experience years ago. We were in the Smithsonian and saw the American flag, which was the inspiration for Star Spangled Banner. Mm-hmm. And I got really emotional staring at this torn up, tattered piece of fabric. And I thought, what is this going on? But it was really cool.
I think there's some kind of energy. I mean, how many people have looked on that same flag and thought about that, those same lyrics? And I think there's a connection.
It just kind of resonates with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where would be your dream trip? You and your husband, all the time you need, all the money you need, what would you do?
Could maybe be Greece.
Yeah?
Yeah, my grandfather's family's from Icaria, and I've never made it over there yet. I think that might have to happen while I'm still ambulatory.
Sure.
So we'll have to see.
What do you do in your spare time, if you have any?
Well, this last year, it's kind of been about being still, and being in place. And I mentioned when my daughter was, so we had that last year. But now I feel like I'm ready to maybe get back into the swing a little bit. Yeah. So we have horses. I mentioned that a little earlier.
Yeah.
So I do carriage driving, CDE.
Oh, wow.
competition. So very low level. I'm still just learning.
Yeah.
So a lot of my spare time is at the barn, shoveling
Really
and
cool.
raking and getting ready for shows and,
Yeah.
and those kinds of things. So.
How did your family get into horses?
Well, my daughter really just wanted to take lessons when she was a small kiddo, and so we went out to Cessna Stables, and it was a Christmas present. I'm like, okay, we'll see. I think she was 11. I thought, okay,
Yeah.
I'll buy you 6 lessons. That'll be your Christmas package, and we'll see how this goes. Because in 12 seconds, she'll be on to something else.
Right.
Well, now she has her degree in equine management,
Oh,
and
wow,
she's
that's
a
cool.
professional. She manages the equestrian center at Lake Erie College.
Oh,
So
neat.
it started with my kid, and I would say probably about 3 months into her lessons, Shannon, her teacher, just kind of looked at me and said, "So, okay, are you going to start riding, or are you just going to drool over it?" And I'm like, I'm old, and this is the body I have. I'm not sure, but she kind of helped me get started,
Yeah.
and during her high school, to a lesser extent her college years, but it was something that my daughter and I did together. And I knew she's going to go off and be with her friends and do all the things that tweens and teenagers do.
Mm-hmm.
But she was always like, "Okay, Mom, when are we going to the barn?" And so that was something that to me built a connection.
That's
that,
really cool.
So
I like that the generations have repeated. So your mom got you interested in the library and in reading, and that's how you got your job or your career. And then you took your daughter for classes, and she got into it, and now that's her career.
it's really kind of cool. And I remember when
That's
she
neat.
was off at college and kind of doing her own thing and had moved on from the little halflinger pony that that she was
Yeah.
riding at home. And my husband was like, "So are we selling the horses? What are we doing?" And I just laughed. I thought, "Oh, he has no idea." No, we're not selling them. Matter of fact, I'm buying another one.
And how many do you have now?
3.
Yeah, 3. Okay.
So, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I want to circle back real quick. What is your connection to this town? Like when you come to work in that beautiful building, and that amazing stained glass mural, but what is it about the square that connects or resonates with you?
Well, we always kind of came to the oh, good gravy, it's escaping me, to the Christmas candlelight walk.
Okay.
We always, my sister and I, my sister's a floral designer, and would come and would look at the windows and,
Cool.
Just have community and see that. I mean, don't get me wrong, we did fun things in Acro too.
Yeah.
But the candlelight walk was one of the fun things that we did and made me think, wow, wouldn't this be cool to live here? I have no sense of direction. I'm lost all the time. My GPS, but I'm like, okay, right, we're at the square, so I'm pretty sure that way's north, and I know where Cool Beans is. So
Yeah,
it's like, we're
nice.
okay. So, I mean, it started as a tourist, really,
Okay,
just kind of
cool.
coming out to Medina, and, again, when my daughter was, doing the horse show things, would meet people, and they were from, Medina or Sharon. So kind of just meeting some folks.
Yeah.
Second, making that connection with some things happening on the square, and it kind of drew me. So when we thought, all right, my parents are gone, we know we want to live in something that's a little bit more rural, there really wasn't any question that it was going to be in or near Medina. So it really just kind of grew on us as a place that we like to be, so
Sure.
why not live there?
Nice.
Yeah.
You said you kind of started out as a tourist. So when you have guests in from out of town or someone that hasn't been here, what's your hit list? Like, we got to go here. We got to eat here. We got to see this.
Well, we definitely go to Times Square.
Okay.
We're like, okay, you're going to have to go, and I'm going to get the salmon on top of the salad because that's what I live for. We do that. Of course, I have them come to the library,
Of
at
course,
least one,
of course.
depending on who it is. Sometimes I can trick them into coming to 2. It kind of depends on who's coming in.
Yeah.
But for sure, the square.
Cool.
We can meet here and we can, have lunch, do a little shopping, and then, then I drag them down to Spencer and
Yeah.
because they can find their way, and we go to Spencer Market down there and look for some local honey. Yeah,
Sure.
it's all good.
That's cool. Well, Julianne, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to finally meet you and get to know you and learn a little bit more about you. And we look forward to working with you and seeing what's new at the library.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Thanks.
Take care.